Afternoon, everybody. Hope you're doing all right. Right then, according to some reports, Brighton have loan listed Evan Ferguson. Hence, this isn't. I did say I was going to start looking at who United might be able to go loan. But Evan Ferguson wasn't on any list that I'd started doing just yet. But he is supposedly going to be available for loan in January. Currently behind several other forwards in the pecking order because Hürzeler just prefers other forwards. Also, he's had injuries, been out for a long time for most of the last 7 or 8 months or so. Reports are suggesting as well that Brighton would prefer him stay in the Premier League rather than move to the Championship. The likes of Leicester, Fulham, West Ham, Newcastle, don't know why Newcastle are, all showing interest due to the need for goals. Now, it's quite the turn of events that's happened with Evan Ferguson, to be honest with you, because a while ago he was being sort of lined up as a £100 million future Manchester United striker. Should United get him? Should do this, that, and the other. My gut instinct with this, if you heard about it and went, oh yeah, hang on, oh no, and I've basically bounced between the yes, no, and I literally line up in the middle now, which is not great, is it really? But that's where I'm at. I don't know where I stand. I really don't, because on one hand, I go, yeah, I like a lot about how he plays the game. But he's an unproven striker. What United's issue is at the moment is you have Rasmus Højlund, who is an unproven striker. Not perhaps scoring as many goals as you would expect him to. You bring Evan Ferguson in. You then potentially have a possibly injury-prone, unproven striker. Now, the saving grace for that might be the fact that you're getting him in on loan. And here's the other thing, right? When you go to the loan market, you're looking at what... It's like going to a charity shop, yeah? You're not getting the best shit. You might have to see if you can... This is exactly what I was looking for. Or, do you know what? I've always fancied one of those. You're not going to get the brand new, bespoke, made-to-measure shit that's exactly what you want at the top of the market. You're going to the loan market because it's not desired as much by its current owner. You don't let that go out on loan. How's he different to Højlund? It's a good question. Maybe if this starts getting some legs, I'll do a side-by-side comparison and explain them. The first instinctive thing I would say, I think he's aggressive in a different way. Højlund's quite aggressive, but I think there is a slight difference in how aggressive he is. I also think that he's got different movements in the box to Højlund, but there's not a million differences. There's not a million differences. And I like him. I do like him. I think he's got genuine goal-scoring instincts. I think he's another potential striker. That's him, isn't it? He is another potential striker. Potential rather than proven. And that's unfortunately the big one. DACR says he's lost his acceleration since his injury. Not seen enough of him to say that one. Caleb says might as well get Welbeck back. There's a lot of people that are banging that drum. I don't think there'd be too many that would say no to that. Cunha should be looked at as well, says Colin. I hope he is looked at. But this is the thing, isn't it? When you do go to the loan market, you're going to end up getting some players that are not quite perfect, not quite playing, out of favour to a greater or lesser degree at their clubs. And that's why they are being made available for a loan and potentially looked at as a sale somewhere. John Adair says, let's see what Obi does in the under-19s. Yeah, I think they're playing, is it AZ that they're playing now-ish? Next half hour maybe? Yeah, and I think he's on the bench. I think Wheatley's starting. So there's obviously still a pecking order that Obi has to go all the way through. It might be Wheatley. I suspect it probably won't be Wheatley, but the fact is at the moment he's playing ahead of the likes of Obi. So it's one of them. Kez says different system help. Yes, a different system can absolutely suit some players more than others. And that might be enough for him to just look transformative in the team. Connor says, yeah, under 19s are playing right now, and I'm bummed because I can't find a stream for them in the US. Is it not on MUTV? Might be on MUTV, mate. Is that a real green wall or is it wallpaper? No, it's plastic plants, but they're 3D. They're real. It's not wallpaper. Knight says Xerxes is halfway to 24. By the way, he's not a project striker anymore. People progress at different ages, so that's not necessarily a done deal. But I do understand what you mean. Oh, the game's not being streamed at all. Oh, well, there you go. Unfortunately, we're not going to get the footage of that. Charles says we could buy Osimhen. You could, right? Yeah, everything is possible, I guess. You could do that. I don't know if that's a realistic sort of move, but you could. Yeah, and I don't know how that would end up going. Why? Kez says Obi will overtake Wheatley just because of his physicality, surely. Not necessarily. No. Limo says it took Salah to 25 to become world class. That is also true. No one was predicting Salah and De Bruyne when they were at Chelsea would go on and be as good as they were. But that's not a height. That just because someone else hasn't quite hit those heights doesn't mean everyone is going to hit those heights. Cody says if we could love in Ferguson, what do we do with Xerxes? I'm not sure Xerxes is going to have a long Manchester United career. This is probably the kindest way that I could put it. Would I take the lap? Yeah, probably. The whole thing I've been sort of saying all season, really, and I don't really want to cover loads of old ground, but like this United forward line just isn't that good. It just really isn't that good. I did the pod with Rio yesterday, and we were saying, look at the forwards that we had in 2012, and Fergie went, I need Robin van Persie on top of this. And I only spoke about the central strikers, really, because we did play with two at the time, although one and Rooney. We had Welbeck, we had Chicharito, we had Berbatov, and we had Rooney, and Fergie went, go and get me Dimitar Berbatov. And actually, he nearly got Lewandowski as well. Lewandowski was also being touted at the time. So United was looking at that as we ended up selling Berbatov that summer, but United had that. Who have we got that comes close to Chicharito at the moment? Can you imagine how many goals he'd score for us at the moment, right now? Chicharito. Oh my fucking God. Let alone a young Danny Welbeck, let alone a Wayne Rooney or a Robin van Persie. And I didn't even touch on the wingers. Who do we have on a wing at that time? 2012. We would have had Ashley Young, no comment. We would have had Antonio Valencia, who was very good at the time, extremely effective at the time. Antonio Valencia, 2011-12. When did he do his leg? Can't remember. Antonio Valencia, either way, at that time, better than any winger at the football club right now. Anyone disagree? Does anybody disagree that 2012 Antonio Valencia better than any fucking winger at this football club right now? And that's not to even start including Nani. Am I right? Am I wrong? So when you look at that potency in that forward line, and you try and tell me that this forward line right now should be competing for titles, I think you're off your medications because this forward line is horrendous. Horrendous. And I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. Kagawa was in the mix as like a bit of a sort of utility number 10 as well, wasn't he? I'm just going to Google it because I can't remember everybody that was in there, and I'm sure I'm missing some, especially wingers. I'm sure I'm missing a winger or two here. Let me just get onto the squad because I knew there's somebody in the mix here. So Berbatov, Rooney. I mean, Ryan Giggs, but he was playing central midfield at the time. Chico, Nani, Ashley Young, Welbeck. Angelo Enrique was technically at the club, but it wasn't really, was he? Makeda. Yeah, no comment. Lingard was there, didn't play though. None of them played. So yeah, the ones that were playing, you're basically like Makeda, Kagawa, Van Persie, Welbeck, Ashley Young, Nani, Chicharito, Giggs, Rooney, Berbatov obviously got sold that summer, Antonio Valencia. None of our players right now are on that level, and that is the sad reality of where we are. Raymond says Valencia was a right winger before turning into a right back. Correct. Knight said, should we loan the Greek striker Pavlidis with a scout report on? Not sure available. I don't know if you get him on a thingy loan. Ty says Jonathan David contract expires at the end of the season. We could put in a cheeky bid in Jan to secure him. That should be something that we're exploring. IR says Salah should do a Van Persie, but not to United. Ooh, to who? Arsenal? Colm says, can we get another project strike? Can't get another project strike. We already have one. We need the finished article now. Who's that guy? Is it Osimhen? Is Osimhen that guy? He's had a bit of a feet up in Saudi and come and get in the mix. John says Kagawa would be amazing in this system. Kagawa would have been amazing in that system. People forget that the plan was to sell Wayne Rooney and it didn't happen. That was Fergie's plan. Robbie says, do I think these forwards will improve when they're on the same page? No. You might get a 5-10% uplift from them, but not one of them is turning into Robin Van Persie. Not one. Not one of them is turning into Wayne Rooney. Not one. I don't know how many of them can turn into Nani. Oh, Osimhen's in Turkey, not Saudi. My bad. Flaw says Valencia was awesome at his job. Incredible number of assists and wading with goals as well. He'd be an ace wing back too. He'd just be an ace character to have in the squad. Abhinav says, Steve, is Thanksgiving a thing in the US as well? Do you mean the UK as well? Was it Thanksgiving today or was that yesterday? I don't know. No, it's not a thing in the UK. Notch says, I'm still annoyed at what Moyes did to Rooney and left Kagawa sidelined. Kagawa was one of the just a beautiful footballer, wasn't he? There was did we play Barcelona in a pre-season friendly around about that time, and I saw Kagawa control the ball on the turn, back foot, with three Barcelona players coming around and press him, and he popped out the other side with the ball, and I was like, fucking hell, I love that shit. AK says, love Chicharito, seriously underrated. Chicharito right now would put a fucking clinic on in the Premier League. Knight says Cavani's only 37, would still be better than our current strikers. He absolutely would be. I think he won't come back. Liam says, as an Irishman, I'd love us to sign Ferguson. Someone, probably one of the Irish lads, would know this. Have United ever been successful without an Irishman in the team? Liam says, as a United fan, I think it'd be poor for us to have three young, unproven strikers. It would, you're right. Avrayer says, I think the gap between Hojlund and Gyökeres even, I think they can become a good threat for the next almost 10, 11 years. The problem is, like, at what point do they become that 25, 30 goal a season striker? Ty says, do I think we needed one 25 goal a season striker or a couple 10, 15 goal a season forwards, wingers and attacking midfielders? I think we need both. So United scored, 50-something goals last season? People that are winning stuff are scoring 40 goals. So if you take, let's say you take Hojlund out of the team, okay, that 55, 56 goals goes down to 40 goals. So you need 60 goals to come into the team. Your main striker, let's see, contributes 30. Brilliant. You still need two guys chipping in with 15. It's not enough across the board. There's so many more goals need to be scored by this football team. Uma says, man, I'd love to get Osimhen, amazing striker, sell Rashford in the summer. What do I think? Yeah. Wayne says we should go all out for Gyökeres in the summer. We will find out what the reality of that situation is. It did seem like it was possible, didn't it, from the noises coming out of both him and Sporting and all the rest of that sort of stuff. They are a selling club. You know, they probably would sell him. Can United afford him? That's the difference. And like DA says there, who's buying any of these guys? Yeah, you can say, all right, let's put 7 or 8 United players on a transfer list. Cool, let's do that. Who's going to buy him? Who's going to buy him? Doc Rock says Sporting was raising the price. You know, everything is, isn't it? Everything's all that. Amar says, would I sell Garnacho if he doesn't 100% fit the system? You can make huge dough from the sale. Yeah, probably. Captain Longsmock says, unpopular opinion. As an Irishman, I don't think Ferguson is anywhere near the level United need. I don't think he's the guy that's going to come and score 30, 40 goals. No. But then again, he's someone that's coming in on a loan. You're not going to get the perfect package on a loan. You're going to end up with someone that's a bit of a misfit. Abhinav, would I consider Marcus Rojo a flop at United? If not, we have a 100% hit rate from Sporting. Rojo. No, not really a flop. I wouldn't. He's obviously not Rashford. Sorry, Rashford. I was reading a comment then. He's obviously not legendary, is he? But a flop? No, I'm not sure I would say flop, to be honest. What's the first position I would strengthen? Left wing back. We don't have one. Don't have one. Avishek says, as a reviewer, did I not give Crashford, don't be a dick, benefit of doubt for a very long time? I give everyone the benefit of doubt. I give everyone the opportunity, and I believe I analyse everyone fairly. You can disagree, that's fine. But what I talk about they do would it'd be whatever. Would I do I'm a celebrity? The problem with that is I'm not a celebrity. So let's start with that part of it. Secondly, I think it's evolved into a bit of a shit show, hasn't it, really? Nah. There's not really a lot on mainstream TV I'd be interested in doing, to be honest. Anything that I would do on mainstream TV would be like historical, military sort of documentary type stuff. I'd do that. Otherwise, there's not really anything that fucking interests me in the slightest, to be honest. Gas says, I like the look of Ferguson when he first came through. Wouldn't relish the opportunity of helping a Premier League rival, though, unless there was some option to make a deal permanent if it was a success. Yeah, that's the double-edged sword, isn't it? Manchester United get him playing again, get him firing again, get him scoring again, and then Brighton take him back and he goes on and does a madness. That's, yeah, you almost kind of want a little bit of the Sancho deal, whereas there is an obligation to buy with Sancho. Avanov says, can't believe we spent 80 million on Anthony. He's like, make a wish, kid. Will Rio ever have Roy Keane in the podcast? Yeah, I think so. DJ Lenky says, you are a celeb to us, Sir Howson. Right, all right. But not to the general public, and that's who matters. Uma says, I would love nothing more than Wirtz and Osimhen in the summer. Sal Rashford, agree. Where does Wirtz play in this? Does he play in the 10? Whose spot is he taking? I do love Wirtz, I do admit. That would do all right. But then are we going for the big names rather than the perfect players? Jigger says, I'd get him. Lone players are great. Give the strikers a half each and see what happens. That can help, can it? Like that little bit of time off in the week could really be beneficial. Dak says, opinion on Jeremy Clarkson. Seems a bit Marmite, but he cracks me up. I think he's done a fantastic thing for British farming with the Clarkson's Farm series. He's getting a little bit of stick from people over... So there's a lot of political shizzles going on with inheritance tax on farms. There's some discussion, I don't know if it's true or not, but there is discussion, so I'm just giving you the commentary on it, that there is some discussion that one of the reasons Clarkson got into farming was because of the inheritance. I don't know if that's true or not. He's got some quite forthright, controversial opinions on various different things. I think he makes watchable content. I think it was a really... it's probably the best thing he's done in his career is this farm series. And even though you can see the writing in it almost as you watch it, it's good. And it's real, which I got a lot of time for. Anybody that does and creates things that are authentic that they're working on. He's not turning up fucking 12 days a year to film something and letting other people run it. I think he's actually getting involved with it. And I got a lot of time for people that do that sort of stuff. Lewis says, you got it in one on Clarkson. Which bit? Nathan says, if any estate's worth 5 million, it should be subject to inheritance tax, farm or not. I don't know where I stand on inheritance tax. It's not something I'm ever going to have to deal with. There's no one that's got any sort of land in my family, certainly nothing worth over £5 million at least. It's not going to be something I ever have to deal with. What's interesting about the inheritance tax is the tax has been paid on what people have amassed for so long. It feels a bit of a shit thing to do to pass inheritance tax on for when your family pass away and now you've got this massive tax bill. I know the farming one is a little bit more complicated than that. It's only farms worth over 3 million, and you only tax 10% on stuff worth over 3 million, and you get 10 years to pay it, which is quite generous because you don't get that level of anything otherwise. But at the same time, there seems to be a hell of a lot of pressure on the British farming industry, which is not good. Farmers didn't help themselves by almost fucking to a man voting for Brexit, which completely fucking shafted them. Like, the whole propaganda about Brexit was such a weird fucking campaign and a weird divisive time in British politics, but it's completely shafted the country and especially shafted farmers. I don't know if there's ways around it. Like, I don't know why farms can't be placed into limited companies or trusts where they then become passed down without, does that bypass inheritance tax? If, can you make your kids directors on that sort of stuff? So if you pass, they just become the next directors. I don't actually know. It's one of those. Ian says, they have not given us Brexit, you fool. What do you mean they've not given us Brexit? I didn't say farmers had given you Brexit. I said they voted for Brexit, almost to a man. Altered Shape says, we have a national debt due to the previous government and they've skewed themselves all the time, voting for Tories and Brexit. Toby says, love Clarkson despite how much of a knob he is. The controversy feels manufactured considering it doesn't affect a handful of rich people. It's about land ownership and not farming, in my view. You might be correct. I asked, has got a job interview tomorrow. Any advice? Yeah, be prepared for those fucking wank questions about where you see yourselves in 5 years and what would you bring to the job and what are your weaknesses. I wouldn't ever ask that in an interview. Joe, I would say, ask them what a high performer in this role looks like. What are they looking for somebody in this role? Do you want to sit there and you go, have you got any questions? And you go, no, I've got no questions. That's not good either. Ask them, what would a high performer, what does the ideal candidate look like from their point of view? And then, if you're unemployed, you just want the job, that's fine. But if you say, I hate that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? On a beach with a fucking Euro Millions lottery ticket in my pocket, hopefully. Fuck off. Not working. And certainly if it's a minimum wage fucking job as well, or an entry level position somewhere, where do you want to be in 5 years? Not here, ideally. I'd like to fucking get some experience and we get the fuck out of here. But then you'll get marked down for that. Ask them what's the best thing that what you could bring to that job. JB8 says, I noticed Garnacho's decision making becomes worse after someone else scores because he starts looking for his. I haven't noticed that. I just think it's bad across the fucking board, to be honest with you. User says, I'd rather have Matoma than Ferguson. I don't think he's on the table, unfortunately. IR says, solid advice, cheers. It'd be my first job out of uni. Well, good luck. And yeah, I would ask them that. What does a high performer in this job look like? What are you looking for out of this? Because you don't want to just sit there being no fucking whatevers. I don't know what the job market looks like at the moment. Don't know how competitive it is for stuff. But yeah, good luck. Theo says Stephen only hates Garnacho because he took Sancho's place. One, I don't hate Garnacho, and what a load of fucking bollocks that is. Daniel says the upshot of inheritance tax will be American private ownership, private equity firms owning UK farmland. Whoopsie daisy. Yeah, that's the other thing as well, is it does feel like one of the reasons for the inheritance tax was to get some land moving, because a lot of land doesn't come up for sale at all very often. So it prohibits other people from getting on land and it creates a scarcity, which means that the price of land is high. I don't know the answer to it. I don't think the idea is making farming less viable. I think farming should be something that is fucking encouraged, maybe not subsidized, but certainly helped. And I don't know necessarily how you help that, but I think it should absolutely be something. Like, it can't be fucking healthy for us to be importing the fucking billions of tons of food that we import across the fucking world. Like, I did see something post Brexit that instead of importing, like, I'm going to say tomatoes because I don't know what veg it was, but let's say it's tomatoes just for the argument's sake. Instead of us importing them now from fucking Spain, we import them from New Zealand. How is that healthier? How is that better for the environment? How is that fucking cheaper? Like, it's everything is just better if it's fucking produced locally, isn't it? Like, you don't need as many pesticides. You don't have to fucking waste as much that just dies on fucking ships coming through the Suez Canal. Like, it's just fucking better in it if you can produce stuff locally. Not just corporations been shafting farmers for years. I think that's the bottom line of it, yeah. Farming should be something that makes a lot of fucking money for people, but it doesn't. And I understand farmers are like, the margins are shit. Okay, that's cool. The land you're on's worth millions. There's a disconnect. Britain's just too expensive. That's the top and bottom of it. It's £10,000 to £15,000 an acre in the UK to buy an acre of land. In America, you can get an acre of land for £300-400. There's the difference. Britain's too small. Liam says, we fly Eastern Europeans over to work in farms, they're cheaper to employ. What? What the fuck? Kerry says, shitty controlled grey sky weather too. But it does mean that we get to raise loads of sheep. I don't know if you drive through the countryside. I drive through the countryside a lot. There's so many fucking sheep. Nigel says, I think Clarkson's farm has brought to light the true cost farmers have to go through. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a massive positive, because it allows people to understand stuff. Now, the flip side of what he's done is he's created a demand, and he's been incredibly successful. I'm sure financially he's going to be incredibly successful on the back of, he's probably got one of the busiest pubs in the country. He's probably got one of the busiest farm shops in the country. You know, he's opening people's eyes to the realities of farming and countryside living. That's all positive in my opinion. Am I worried about Martinez injury-wise? Yeah, I am. Schlotterbeck in the summer, maybe. I think Schlotterbeck's too big a name, figuratively and literally. Hamoudi says, imagine we get Salah next year. It's not going to happen. Have I watched The Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix? I have not. Is it any good? Lucy verbally says, no one here wants to pick fruit, so we employ people from overseas on temporary work visas, so even live on the farms. What I don't understand about that is, I don't understand how it's possible to do that legally. Like, there's a minimum wage that exists. How do you pay people under minimum wage? To be fair, like, I recently found out about someone I know that was being paid cash in hand, and I thought that was not possible or legal at the time. I was shocked to find out that that's still happening. Is that what's happening? How the fuck are people doing that? Who has been the best or least worst manager for United in the post-Fergie era? How about Ollie? I think Ollie. Liam says, farming tech being able to grow in stacks and indoors will increasingly mean less land is used for farming. If we perfect lab-grown meat, even less will be needed. I understand the arguments for lab-grown meat. I can't bring myself to eat lab-grown meat. It'll be massive though, won't it? It absolutely will be massive. Leroy says they get put in caravans on farm and wages are incorporated into that. Flaw says farmers are shafted by supermarkets within a low pay, low tax economy. Our food feels expensive because we don't earn much, but a lot of stuff is cheap, so farmers can't make ends meet. Yeah. Yeah. It's not it's not there's a lot upside down about not just Britain but the fucking world economy. Kerry says, I was working last year here in Mexico for £100 a week. Same job in the UK would be 60 or 80 quid a year. I can understand the different economies across different countries. That makes sense. It's not fair, but it makes sense. What I don't understand is how someone can bring workers from overseas to the UK, employ them in the UK to work in the UK and not pay them the UK minimum wage. Are they just fucking Al Capone in it? Is that the game? Is that the move? Nathan says, is that even possible after Brexit? Surely no. That's illegal. No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's what I'm saying is I think that is illegal. But they just Al Capone in it. They're just fucking doing it and getting away with it. Oliver says, normalise owning chickens and growing herbs and spices in your garden. Makes a hell of a lot of assumptions that people have got gardens. Like, if you look at Manchester at the moment, the amount of high-rise flats that there are in Manchester at the moment, how's people keeping chickens and shit in that? It's just not going to happen, is it? Anyway. Liam says it's because they're willing to do that job on minimum wage, I think. But is that... It can't be that. It can't just be that. I refuse to believe that it's just that. I refuse to believe that it's just that. I see that a lot when people are talking about, you know, people's willingness to work and things like that, but I never see evidence of that. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. But that, yeah, we started off at least on Evan Ferguson. Thoughts? Quick, yes, no, go for it. Let me know in the comments. Yes, do it. No, leave it. What if he's the only one available? Because it will have to probably be a loan. A lot. Oh, it's quite mixed there, isn't it? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Wow. Lucy says, I see it in my job. It's above board most of the time. Wow. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Look for someone else, says Dylan. Swap with Xerxes. I don't know if they'd be up for that. Rick says, I'm from Ireland. It's a big no for me. Okay. Liam says no, but through gritted teeth. Helly says no, not because I don't like him, because I see a player you permanently get for the future. He's not the player that will solve our current issue. Brian says Sunday's game is the worst we are likely to be under Amorim. With every training session, the players will get better in a new system. Okay. Righty then. I'm going to wrap it up. Cheers for tuning in as always. There's another video coming out later today, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully it'll be out just before the Champions League game, so have a look at that. Otherwise, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.